question now.
Okay. I'm recording. If you want to start, Garrett.
Whatever. I'm white. Fuck it. All right. And it's recording. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the Distance Theory podcast. Back at you with another episode. I'm Garrett Ricardo with my co-host
Ryan Mazzozo.
And today we have somebody I call a friend, a brother. I just met him last year, but you know, the vibes are already there. Welcome, Marlon.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm stoked.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just start out. So Marlon Belden, you're in high school still right now, class of 2021.
Yeah.
What are your PRs?
So I haven't ran on a track since sophomore year, but when I did, I put up 9:32 for 32, and then that next fall, my junior cross season, I ran 15:10. So
shit, that's all I can say.
And the 1600 was what was your 1600 PR?
I ran 4:29, but I never got to run it that much. But yeah, that was that.
I mean, as a sophomore, that's still really good.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, well, I mean, I guess we should just kind of.
You want to ask the first question, or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's just congratulate my dog because.
Oh, duh, yeah.
Committed to Georgetown. How was that?
Definitely interesting. Like I definitely knew for a while, and then it was just kind of weird, like being like the first class ever to go through a pandemic commitment. So it was kind of just like watching like this thing like gradually like unfold into a recruiting process. It's, you know, not what everyone else is used to, and it was kind of weird like seeing, all right, the dead period is extended, and then official visits are canceled, and then, you know, every school kind of does things their own way, and then, and for me, just the timeline alone was kind of a big part of why I think things ended up, you know, gravitating towards Georgetown really early, just because it kind of matched up with, you know, the decision making I wanted to take and when. Yeah. So that was a big part of it, is getting it done early for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So did you have like Zoom calls with your coach? Like, did you even get to meet him?
Yeah, I mean, it was basically like all phone calls. So I never taken an unofficial there. I never met Coach Monty.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it was fine, honestly. Like I accepted it pretty early on that, like, all right, this is going to be something that lasts a while, you know? And, you know, with all the virtual stuff you can do, it's kind of like, you know, what do they do 200 years ago? You just look at pictures that you can have and reputation, and you're like, all right, that's where I want to be, you know? So, yeah.
I mean, it definitely does suck because I remember, you know, my coaches were telling me, you know, take every visit you can, take all 5 just so you can, you know, go different places.
You texted me like 6 months ago, I went on unofficial to Wake, and you're like, spend all their money.
Yeah. You got to, bro. I mean, they're taking you, bringing you on a visit. They're interested in you. Like, when you're never going to get that treatment ever again, like even when you're at the school, you know? So.
Yeah, no, it was definitely like official visits were like something I was always looking forward to, but like it was all about attitude. I was like, whatever, you know, what am I going to do about it?
Of course. Obviously, there's nothing wrong, especially with like the dead period being pushed back is huge because, I mean, some guys like you know, they're not going to wait to take an official. They're just going to take the money while they have it.
Yeah, and you know, like I wonder how many kids out there right now are like waiting till like May to take an official.
And
like,
that's not a good idea.
Yeah, I really don't think it is. Like I don't understand what's worth. Like I get like the atmosphere is obviously extremely important when choosing a school, but I mean, you're going to lose opportunities if you wait until this clears up, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you might get there and you might not like a couple guys, or you might bond with the team great. I mean, you just won't know. And even on an official visit, you won't even know that because I didn't like the guys at the time when I came on my official visit here, and they're actually really cool and stuff. So you'll never know, you know?
Yeah.
No. But
for sure.
All right, Ryan, you want to start with the first official question, I guess?
Yeah. So, one thing that me and Garrett are like really bad at is not doing anything that has to do with running.
Yeah.
And one thing that I saw that you do that's really amazing is your YouTube videos. Like I watched like all your YouTube videos, and it's like it looks like it can be like a 2-minute vacation ad for wherever you go, because you go all around the world. Like you just talk about like how you make those, like crazy transitions. Like it's just really cool videos. You just like talk
I guess
about
like
it.
where I get the content for it, like I mean, most of it is I'm from France, and that's where my entire mother's side of the family is from. So that's where I was born. That's where I spend my summers. You know, granted that there's not a pandemic, so already like that. You know, I'm extremely fortunate to have like that to kind of film those with. You know, because sometimes we get a little bored around here in a town with this population. But yeah, I added on Final Cut Pro, which is like something I just kind of taught myself like right around freshman year. I used to edit on my phone. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff from like 2017, I just did that all on my phone with like a free app. And then you know, it's always been like, I guess like a serious hobby. Like people tell me like you should make it into something, and I don't know, it just kind of helps me feel like more well-rounded as and like get away from just like the strict student athlete life every once in a while, you know, release my artistic endeavors, I guess. But yeah.
I think you brought up a really good point, and me and Ryan have, you know, faced this as our coaching / running career, you know, goes along, is maintaining that healthy balance, because it is so bad to just lean on one thing, and especially as, you know, being a good runner or a good coach, like you kind of find yourself falling into that trap where it's like, well, this is all I know, like this is all I can do type, you know.
For sure. And like I know we talked about like some more like personal stuff like way before this, but like I had to learn like this summer for the first time ever really like to learn how to be happy without running, which like, you know, it's nice to be on a podcast with, you know, two guys that absolutely relate, and, you know, pretty much every passionate distance runner, it's like that's your life. And like it is like even all the lessons I learned, like I'm still going to count that as like the biggest part of my self identity, but at the same time, like, is that kind of risky? Yes. And like being injured for that long really helped me understand like how you cope with things when you can't run, you know, 70 miles a week.
I mean, a lot of people outside of the sport don't realize how much depression really kicks in the running community, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's really unique to like endurance sports as a whole. I mean, obviously like running, I'd say is like the most popular at all of them, like swimmers, bikers. Like I know all of them can relate because it's that same, you know, it's that same.
Yeah, it's the same feelings and stuff.
It's addiction, you know.
And like that's something I didn't really know till, you know, you really start to take things into another gear and take things serious. Like guys in college, like you know, some guys just aren't happy, and I think that's why a lot of guys just end up stepping away from running. Because
for sure. I mean, you just like sometimes you'll see guys like hang on to it for
till
the end of their spiral. You know, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. But by the way, those are some crazy edits. Like you have some
even like you did like a couple times videos where it was like a wave, and then like a wave comes and just transitions to something else. Like, yo, how did he just do that? Like, it's so cool.
That's all stuff I'd watch like as like a 12-year-old. I'd be like, damn, that's sick. Like, I want to know how to do that. Like, it's so simple. So for that, I mean, like, you have a camera, like water gets on the camera, and then you get another shot and you line it up where water got on the camera, and then the water goes. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's not even something like you need like, I guess like post-production editing for. Like if you just line up 2 clips, that's all you need to do for that. Anyways.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think that's really interesting though. Like just how you maintain that balance, and you be freaking surfing. Like I don't know anybody on the East Coast that surfs ever. So I just think that's really cool.
Surfing, skiing, you did a bunch of stuff in those videos. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean like sometimes like like that last one like on my Instagram, that's my cousin making that like gnarly jump on the skis.
Yeah.
So I just gave my camera for that.
Yeah. But yeah, all right. So I guess we already kind of touched upon this, but what was your, you know, like decision making process for like choosing Georgetown? Like what was what separated Georgetown from all the other schools that you're recruited by? And I guess you can name what schools you're heavily interested in.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, you know, I finished junior cross and I definitely got, you know, a lot of attention that I was thankful for. And like over quarantine, like it seemed to be like never ending, and then it kind of slowed down. And so then I had kind of time to like evaluate. And I know you can probably relate to this. Like most of the schools, honestly, they just kind of just flake out themselves, you know, like if you like kind of have interest in them and they only kind of have interest in you, then it ends up being like a mutual thing where like it's not discussed, but they kind of just, you know, disappear out of your process, which was fine with me. It ended up helping me out a lot. And then another thing I thought was interesting is like, and I'm sure like recruits that you know, might be like the next level up, like in terms of their tier, like use it to their advantage. Like without official visits, like you don't technically have to eliminate anyone, you know, because you don't have to decide 5 schools to limit it to. So I'm sure a lot of people use that to their advantage. But you know, it got to the point for me where you know, I'd say around August I really started to come to the conclusion that Georgetown was where I wanted to be, but I still kind of tried to keep, you know, a wide range of options available just in case. And so, I mean, from the beginning, like since freshman year, since I started really, you know, take running as the biggest part of my life, like I knew I wanted to go to a school where academics are going to be of a huge priority, because I mean, I worked really hard in the classroom, and that's just the path I always wanted to take.
Of course.
And like, I have nothing against big state schools. I think, you know, a degree is a degree at the end of the day, but it's just the atmosphere I wanted to put myself in. And so towards the end, like, I really just had it between Cornell and Georgetown. And yeah, it ended up being Georgetown. And for me, Georgetown was pretty much, you know, it was the best option for both athletics and academics. I mean, if you look around and with the options I had, there was really nothing better to be the highest level at both, in my opinion. So
yeah. So basically, you're saying that Spencer Brown had nothing to do with your choice.
No, I mean, actually, like I watched the videos like a fair amount. Like I was never like a diehard fan like some people, but it took me to realize, like, it took me a while to realize like the connection between like Spencer Brown and Georgetown, DC. I was like, damn, that's pretty dope. Like that's my official visit right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be the next Spencer Brown because you already make YouTube videos.
Yeah,
so.
that's what my teammate told me. I was like, oh man.
That'd be funny.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it was really just from the beginning, it was all about just like location, school, and then sports. And for me, like DC, I'd never been, but literally
getting away from home, I know that was a big thing for you.
Yeah, everyone told me it's amazing, and then like I said, sports and school is big there. So yeah, I was all in.
Yeah. So all right, so Ryan, where do you want to?
I was gonna start. I guess we'll just start how he started, but you know, no, I want to talk about his injury real quick because he mentioned it, and I'm just curious, like, what he had. So, what was your injury? Like, what happened?
So, I mean, I'd say like this like turmoil of like this love-hate relationship I had with my athletic career kind of started December of last year. So, December of 2019, I threw out my right SI joint on a long run.
Ooh.
And so, I mean, that was like something I never expected. And before then, I was like, I consider myself like be the healthiest runner like on earth. I was like, I'm never getting injured again. And people would like, you know, clown me for it. But I told myself like the only thing that could take me out of the sport is like an accident. And for me, you know, stepping in a ditch on a rainy long run was an accident. And so from then, like, yeah, that injury I recovered from. And, you know, the weird part about the pandemic is like I was not set up for my best track season. And so I took that as a blessing. All these cancellations for me were like, you know, obviously I'd rather be competing even at a low level, but the truth is like it was better for me to be out and sideline the right way. Yeah. And so I ended up getting in a pretty decent shape. And like the last time I was like running and working out and getting ready to race was like the last time I saw Garrett. And so we did a long run together that day. And so, yeah, I mean, you can ask Garrett, I was in decent shape, but I had a lot of imbalances, like muscular imbalances that I was dealing with biomechanically from, you know, launching a joint my back out of place. And then from then, you know, I held it together for a while, and through April, I just had like some nagging tendonitis on like my extensor tendon on my left foot, and I got that taken care of. And then I had some outside family stuff that was like absolutely draining, and it really did get the best out of my athletic career, like right at the end of June, because I was running really, really well, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this. Like, you can be tired and miss, you know, consecutive nights of sleep and have outside stress, but you're adapted to the volume you're doing. And so you can kind of just keep going, but it'll catch up to you eventually. Mm-hmm. And for me, like right when I got to like that tipping point between June and July, it kind of hit me. And then, you know, from there, it was just like totally like a fatigue injury, you know? And so I kind of had like a stress reaction / tendonitis down my post-tib tendon on my right side. And then from then I was just, you know, it was there, and like I kind of dealt with it. And I finally decided to put it to rest like in August. And then since then, it's just been like the slowest comeback ever. But now I'm finally rolling again. So hopefully, like, my plan is to finish out the season, you know, put it away, and then probably take a week off and then jump back into things, you know, do it the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bro. I mean, when it comes to, like I said earlier, when it comes to stuff, people don't realize that our running is affected by more than just our training, and there's a lot other outside factors, and
Yeah.
like when you have those stresses of life and stuff, and
yeah, no, it's
not,
absolutely overlooked, and it took me like forever to realize that, like to the extent to which, even simple stress, like obviously, like I think there's a threshold like which you adapt, like just general stress from like school and stuff. Like you're gonna get used to a test not freaking you out, not ruining, your easy run the next day. But
yeah.
A test on top of something else, on top of like I'll give you like a good example. Like probably the most common one, like someone out there, there's like a breakup, like that's huge. Like, and if you drop that in the middle of your training week or cycle, like
Oh
you're
yeah.
for that Saturday race, unless you really get some good sleep, in my opinion, at least.
I've had my fair shares of talking to a girl for 2 weeks and then not talking to her, being heartbroken for a couple of days.
Yeah, because you're a heartbreaker.
Yeah. maybe, but nah, yeah. So I remember sophomore year, I went through like nothing crazy. I mean, we're high schoolers, bro. You go through stuff like that, and
Yeah.
I stopped talking to a girl, and I didn't want to run for a week. So
I'm sure it didn't take you long to move on, though.
yeah, no, I didn't. But yeah. Ryan, you look like you want to say something.
I was just gonna ask you what kind of got you through those injuries, because like I know a lot of people, like even right now, like with the pandemic, and even some of my runners, like they've thought of quitting and thought of like I had, yeah, just like what kind of got you through injuries, and also just the pandemic, and you had two legit serious injuries, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of what got me through those, I'd say, passion is what's going to drive you forward, no matter where you're at with your running career. And I've been down and out before. Definitely not as much as I've experienced like those past two injuries. That first one, which it feels like so long ago now, that was first of all like taking care of the panic. Back to like we we're talking about how outside stressors can affect your running career when you're healthy. I think it's the same way when you're healing. If you can't take care of all the energy that's being wasted up here, then you're never going to heal below your head. So that was definitely a big part of it, is learning to manage life without running so that I could get back to it eventually. And then I give a lot of credit to the PT I see here. He's an expert in this stuff. His name is Kevin Green. I'm like so thankful to have someone like him that's local. And I'd say, although I do credit tremendous amount of my healing to his work, like I've researched countless hours of these injuries myself, and I've learned what works for me. And then it's all about sleep, diet, and rehab. So yeah, that's pretty much all it's been. And then for the pandemic, running when I was running was obviously really important. I think it was for everyone that was healthy. It was great to, although you don't have racing as motivation, training's always there. Like I know that was like, it was trending on Instagram forever. It was like everyone's reposting that thing that says like running is never canceled. Like sure. Yeah. Running's never canceled. Races are, but training isn't. I definitely agree with that. And then I was lucky enough to be in a relationship from like April through just about August, and it was just been like it's been like a full 6 months of just like character building on my side. And so like that ended obviously, but it was super important to get me through injuries and family stuff I had going on, and it was great. And so now I'm back with myself, back to how I used to be, and I'm ready to keep moving forward for sure. But yeah, that's kind of my pandemic story.
Yeah.
So it's just basically like looking at the bigger picture, though, right? Like, is that how you kind of like to shorten up?
You said what?
To like look at the bigger picture, like knowing like, oh, I'm hurt now, but in 6 months I can run again.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Patience was definitely a big thing. Like, I think every runner, like every passionate distance runner, is gonna have some sort of like obsession of their sport. And for me, like, especially a year ago, the way I look at my training, I was like more than committed, and the smallest inconvenience would cause like the biggest disruption. Like if you told me I had to take a day off, it's not even the fact that like I'm aware like taking a day off won't lose my fitness. It's the fact like I, in my mind last year, would have had the idea of having June to November, 7 days a week, no days off. And to have like that blip on my calendar where like I didn't run that day would drive me absolutely nuts. And so I had to get over that pretty quickly, being injured for that long. So bigger picture thinking is definitely something. And I'm not any less committed to the sport now. I just see inconvenience as a whole different way.
Mm-hmm. You just gotta take them for how they are, bro.
Huh?
Yeah, so you just gotta take them for how they are, and just listen to a couple of David Goggins podcasts, and you're back on your
yeah. Yeah, you don't feel sorry for yourself anymore, for sure. Yeah. I feel like overall, like, and the more injured you are, like if you have the right mindset, like the better you get at this. But you definitely, like, as a distance runner, like everyone can relate to, like, you just like make so many excuses to feel sorry for yourself. But you just you can't sit around wasting your time doing that, for sure.
Yeah.
Ask another question, Garrett.
So when at like what point in your career did you realize that, like it's time to take it to the next level? Like I can actually be this runner that, is going to be able to go to Georgetown in the future?
I mean, I'd consider myself to be like a relatively confident guy. And so I'd say pretty early on, like freshman year is when I started to realize like how that stuff kind of works. And from then I'd tell people like I want to be D1 when that time comes. So I think it's been a while. Whether it was right of me to think that or not is up in the air. But at the end of the day, I knew I wouldn't stop working until I made it. So, but a big part of that is I was aware of the potential I had, for sure. And I had a lot of good people to look up to. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So when you came into high school, what was your running career before that? Did you run at all, or?
Yeah, so I actually started way back in elementary school, and I've had the same coach, who's actually was my dad's best friend, and so he's basically like my second father. Yeah. And so he started coaching me. It kind of seems like from birth, because I can't even remember like what my first runs were. Yeah. So I was, really at it in elementary school, and then middle school I kind of took a break, like 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, and kind of like tried some other sports like a lot of kids do. And then 8th grade is when I kind of was like, all right, like I like this a lot. And then freshman year was like, all right, this is my life. And then, going into high school, like I said, like that's when I got serious with it. And, that's when I was starting to hear like names like Sam Gilman was a grade ahead of me. Colin Baker was a grade ahead of me. And so I had some like, big names to look up to. Yeah. And that was the beginning of kind of like South Carolina, this like distance revolution we've had. So it was cool to see the start of that, really.
So your freshman year, you realized your potential, and obviously your coaches did as well, but what exactly were your times?
So I really didn't like this freshman year and even sophomore year. I really didn't. I probably knew like 10% of what I know now about running. And so that summer, like I really didn't have the best training. And I started that season. I opened up with an 18-13 on a road race. And then I ended up finishing that season at a 16-17. So
what? Whoa.
So I had a lot bigger of a head freshman year than I do now, because like I thought I was a shit freshman year, like for running 16-17. And like there was probably like 2 or 3, probably about 2 freshmen that were like ahead of me in South Carolina, but still like I was really proud of the fact that I ran that. And then freshman track kind of humbled me down a little bit, and then like from there like I matured. But I was stoked about my freshman cross country season, just like that improvement. It was like the perfect season, like every race but one I improved, and like that's just what happens when you train the right way for the first time.
Yeah. The improvement is just like steady, and then all of a sudden you like plateau, and you're like, well, dang, like what can I do next?
And for me, like freshman track, it was kind of like that for me. Like, all right, I was training right, or like at least better than I had been in middle school, but it wasn't the same feeling as because there's no improvement like there is like dropping a 5K by like 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, I know.
It's all relative when you're running a mile instead of 3. So
yeah. So sophomore year now. So sophomore year is basically your last full year of running.
Yeah.
So sophomore year, how did things progress there?
So I really didn't come off the best freshman track season at all. Like I didn't make state, which is, not uncommon for even like freshmen that are bound to be some of the best. 4:37 for 1600.
You're gonna have to.
Which is
Wait,
why
yeah,
I'm focusing on.
yeah.
I really didn't have a good 2 mile at all because I didn't.
You're gonna have
Wait,
to.
hold up.
Hold on.
You were cutting off for a little bit. Could
I'm
you?
about to edit this part.
What I say last? What was I talking about?
It was the mile. You ran 4:37 in the mile. You
Yeah,
said?
so I ran 4:37 for 1600. I didn't make state, so I was crushed by that. But that summer, I said I didn't really have the best training either. I just didn't really know a lot about how to do running, the way I do it now.
Yeah.
But I ended up starting off, really not too hot. I was proud at the end of the season. That's when I met Alex for the first time. So I'm actually kind of glad we're talking about this now. So cross country state my sophomore year. It was supposed to be me, Cohen, and Sam wasn't having the best season. And so we're all going out the first mile. I'm in fourth.
And wait. Before you keep going, these guys that you just mentioned are insane track runners and cross country athletes. These are legit Cohen Roberts. I think he just came. He ran a 14:10 5K time trial the other day.
Did he? Yeah, I know he's been training hard. Good for him.
Yeah, as a freshman, and then Sam Gilman. Obviously, what did he run? He ran 4:05 in the mile in high school, right?
Yeah, so 4:04 for 16. I think 4:06 for the full mile.
Yeah. All right, so go ahead. I just wanted to.
Anyway, that's a good point because 4A cross country in South Carolina has always been the baddest division. I was going up. So as a sophomore, I was going up against Cohen, Sam, and then little did I know Alex. And so we're all going out this first mile, and it's me, Cohen, Sam, and this guy that I don't recognize, and they just keep going at it. And so it was them three, me, and then just the rest of 4A state. And so I put myself in a position where I was all right, either I got to send it or I got to drop back. And then we go through the first mile and they go through in 4:53. Anyway, I'm not going to go through every detail of the race, but Alex ends up winning that race when, everyone would have told you, all right, it'd be Cohen first, either me or Sam second, and then, predictable the rest of the way. But Alex wins it. Sam gets second. I got third. And then I ran 15:48. And that was my PR for the season. I actually tied it. So I ran 15:48 twice. And then sophomore track was really team oriented. But that ended up being my last track season. Hopefully I'm hoping to have a real one this year, but I haven't raced on a track since sophomore track. So I ran 9:32 for 3,200 at Bojangles, which was mid to late season. And then I made it to state that year in all my events, but I didn't really have the best performances there.
Yeah.
And we won state as a team though. So my coaches were happy with that after making me double and triple at every meet for that season.
That's just crazy to me to ask that much of a high school athlete.
No, it's gonna be an interesting season because if we can't compete outside, at big meets or stay the night at meets, and I'm kind of just stuck running dual and county meets, I think I might have to consider running unattached and going big for my last season in high school. So
I mean,
not there yet, but the way it's looking if they don't ease up on the regulations, which I'm not saying it's on South Carolina High School League to do. I'm just saying for me and all the other top guys in the state that are looking to run fast, it's not going to be possible if you run for your team as of right now.
Well, that's just one of those things where you gotta adapt with all the stuff going on with coronavirus. And it's your final year. I think it's only right that you go out with a bang. And if you have state, you know what you gotta do. You gotta bring that state title back, baby.
Yeah. That's the thing is if you do, if you're going to one outside meet and they screw your whole eligibility, can I run state? So it's gonna be a choice I'm gonna have to make possibly eventually, but we'll see.
Yeah. Ryan, you want to say something?
No, you're good. You keep going with it.
Okay. All right. So obviously we're just kind of running through your whole high school career. So junior year, you get to cross country state, and obviously you're in the best shape of your life. And just talk about that race.
Yeah. So that race, I know Alex's dad had you guys on FaceTime, which is just one of my favorite memories ever. Is hearing you guys through his phone screaming at me while I'm running fast. So sophomore or junior state in cross was definitely my last and my biggest performance, and that's the one that definitely got me this hat. I'd say that's the one that really turned heads, was that progression from sophomore track to that 15:10. So
Yep.
that day is like all or nothing. Like all I had was Cohen in front of me, and I told myself like I'm gonna go out with him and I'm gonna hang on for as long as I can, because like the worst case scenario is I lose, but I finished with a great time, and so that ended up happening. I went out and right at 4:50 with him, and then we came through like right at 9:40, and I knew the odds of me holding another 4:50 for that last mile were slim, but I was happy to come away with the low 15, and we started to kind of have some separation at the 2 mile, and I thought I was going to gain on him on that last stretch, but he looked back and pulled away. But I couldn't complain with the time I ran. So
yeah. And not only did you run a 15:10, but you also came second. And at the state meet, that's what a lot of college coaches look at. And the fact that you came second and you ran that time, and the person in front of you was like a very legit runner. Like
for sure. I think that was a big part of it. Was like, I ran 15:10, but Cohen ran 15:04 that day. And so if you look at that comparison, I never really asked my coach if if that mattered all that much to him, but possibly some other people was, I was proud of, losing to Cohen, but only losing to Cohen by 6 seconds was big to me, especially now that he's running, 14:10, like you said.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because that's awesome.
So what, and I know this is going to be very broad, but what did you change going from your sophomore to junior year, and like what do you think helped you run that time and just progress so much?
That's a really great question, because that, like I said, like that's when things kind of started to click for me, and like I'll never stop learning about the sport. But I'd say a big thing is, I definitely perfected my diet. I learned from a lot of great guys that already did those big things before me. I did a lot of research on my own, and I kind of came to the conclusion that like, the harder the work, the better the result. And, I did the right amount of volume for me, but this time I did it right. And I'd say the biggest thing was consistency. I kept it so consistent. That was, the perfect training block. It was a dream. I started in June pretty much from not a great base off the sophomore track, because I ran well, but I wasn't running, 60 plus miles a week. I was running like 40, 45.
Yeah.
And so running, 65 consistently for the first time ever took a lot of,
it is. Oh, you're talking to the right one about that, because going up to 50 miles my junior year was like, that was like, bro, this is the hardest thing my coach ever did. But, yeah.
So honestly, like those like June and July, you look at my training log and you would not have predicted a 15:10. It was just slow, easy runs and getting used to that volume. And then I started throwing some decent workouts. But, my best tempo that summer for a 15:10 season was like 4 miles, probably right around like just below 5:50 average.
Wow.
But I did end up getting like, I built that base. I had the aerobic foundation. I definitely didn't have a great threshold over the summer, but once I did those workouts and, once like the aerobic base and the speed kind of came together along with all the other stuff, I mean, I was running doubles 2 to 3 times a week. I didn't take a day off. I ran 13 miles every Sunday from July to November. And so it was really just that consistency that carried me to, a good finish of the season overall. And that's what I'm so frustrated about not having nowadays, but
yeah. But I mean, hey, you keep on taking care of that stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm in the clear now. I'm just waiting to get this season over with. But yeah, it makes me smile just thinking about like that last training block I had. It's motivating.
I think the only thing that could make those kind of training blocks better is just, like I said, consistency. I mean,
and definitely
is all you can ask for.
I think, running is so cumulative, like going into those training blocks in a better shape than you ever have before, like for base phase, like relative to that, like that's huge too. Is okay, you take 3 weeks off, but you train for 6 months straight. Like you can hop into a tempo and ran like pretty much just what you ran at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll say my bad. I zoned out for 5 minutes. 2 of my runners were just cursing each other out, 2 girls in a group chat. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's the first time as a coach experiencing that. I'm just curious though, you're saying you're eating. 2 of my runners went vegan. I was just wondering
Marlon vegan.
I'm not. You always go.
But like, what's like a a normal day? Because some of my runners, like, they're obsessed with you, but they're like, oh, I want to go vegan because the Kenyans go vegan. Like, what's like a normal day for you eating wise?
I mean, I'm definitely not vegan, even though Garrett thinks I am. I think you can be a vegan, but I do think, I think you can be a vegan and be an elite runner, but I don't think you can be a vegan and be a sub-elite runner. I think that if you're elite, you probably have the access and the knowledge to do it right. But if you're not, you probably, you're not going to hammer out every supplement and get your balance right. There's so much that goes into getting all those nutrients, and, elite vegans will argue that you can just get it from all the food you eat. And the truth is there's different forms of different things across plant, animal, food. And so for me, my personal values, they lay in, kind of preserving at least the environment somewhat. And I think a big part of that is definitely cutting out, things that are contributing to, large emissions. So if you look at the animal agriculture sector, dairy and red meat are definitely not good in terms of that. And so the extent to which that's contributing to climate change is questionable. But for me, it's something I don't want to be involved in. And so I've cut out, everything, all milk and products from cows. I do eat, so this is where Garrett gets it wrong. So I do eat fish, and I do eat venison. So that's just local deer meat. So that's where I get my red meat from. So I'm not a vegan. But all the dairy, I'm not really having any of that. I mean, to me, whether you're an environmentalist or not, I don't think you should be eating as a distance runner. I think that, it can be already, it definitely can hamper your recovery and add inflammation to the body that you don't need. But a normal day for me, I'd probably just date back to like junior cross, because that's when everything was like perfectly in line. So I wake up, I always run on an empty stomach, definitely have some water, but afterwards, every day I had the same protein shake. So it's just like, it's the simplest recipe ever. So it's just pea protein, cocoa powder, and almond milk. I mean, there's like nothing else to it. And people clown me for it because they say it tastes like bitter, and it definitely does. But I think it's so refreshing once you get used to it. And so I just have that, and that honestly fills me up a lot. And I don't really have a huge appetite after, hard workouts or even an easy run when I'm in shape. I know you guys can probably relate to that. So I just have that, slug that down before school, have like half a Cliff Bar or something, and then probably have the other half of the Cliff Bar in between that and lunch. And then lunch is probably when I like to stick plant-based. And so I'd have, a type of bean, like a lentil, or, like just black beans, just because that ratio of protein to carbs and, the amount of fiber it's going to contain, I think, is like optimal for digestion in between doubles.
Yeah.
And once I got home at night, after that double, that's when I'd go for a lean meat like fish or venison, and then, broccoli and
tofu.
Like that. Yeah. I'd say like that's an average day for me.
Yeah. So no leaves, no tofu, no grass or anything.
I'll eat tofu and all that, but like I'm not a vegan. No, tofu is good though. You should try it. You can make it taste like anything.
Yeah, I've actually never had tofu before, but I mean, I don't think I eat as clean as you, but I definitely do eat. Like,
no, I think like, correct me if I'm wrong, but out of all the CSU guys, you definitely have the best diet.
Probably, yeah. And I'll tell you who doesn't have the best diet, and that's definitely Alex.
He admitted on the podcast.
Yeah, the last podcast, if you watch it, he literally just says he eats whatever.
Anything.
I asked him his cheat meal. He's like, every day's a cheat meal for me. So.
Nah, man.
Yeah.
No cheat meals.
Yeah, but that's so good though that you're aware of your body, and because I think diet contributes a lot to performance, and I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of people that.
I mean, even if you're not an athlete, like it's kind of scary if you look around.
I think it's even more important if you're not an athlete.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like a culture thing as a whole here.
Of course.
Awesome.
It is kind of hard to eat healthy though in a Hispanic household. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, very, very, very hard.
What are you talking about? You're not Hispanic. You're white.
Yeah, I'm not.
Nah, I'm playing. Ryan's Cuban, guys. It's okay.
Nice.
But,
like I said, I zoned out for a couple minutes. I don't know if you asked this question. Like I said, I've never seen runners curse each other out, so this is a new thing for me. But because I know you're talking about like freshman through junior year. When did you realize like, oh, I'm one of like the best runners, and like, because your eating habits and the way you like you take training really, it's not like you're just talented out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like you take this seriously. When did you like, okay, like I need to double down and like take this seriously? Like, was it before high school?
So I'd say like the mentality of, a champion's mentality. So like I adapted quickly going into freshman year because like, starting freshman year, like I was definitely not the best freshman. I wasn't really even the best on my team yet, at least for those first few meets. And so then like that, I'd say that's when I got the mentality right, or at least like a small scale, competitive mindset. And then I'd say it's really that transition between sophomore and junior year was probably the biggest. And then I'd say like probably what'll pay off to be like the next biggest one is this one between junior and senior year. Like everything I've gone through these last 6 months, I think it'll really pay off in terms of the lessons I learned once I start running in this track season. So
what was like the
podcast?
What was like the one resource like what influenced you like to go crazy? Like you sound like Tom Brady or some of these like LeBron James, where you just go crazy with everything.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, who wants it the most at the end of the day? And so for me, I kind of look at, all right, these guys that I'm competing against, like they're running great, but.
Well, where did the motivation honestly like?
But yeah, was it your teammate? Was it your coach? Was it some YouTube? Was it Spencer from Georgetown? Like, like what was it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it might sound ridiculous, but I mean, it's honestly like it's always been me. I really done it for myself, and like I love making my friends proud. Like, there's no better feeling, but at the end of the day, like, I think the internal reward for me is unmatched. And I know a lot of runners. Like for me, like my parents weren't Olympians. They never were athletes. They never pushed me out the door. I love my coach to death, but it's the same way. Like, at the end of the day, like I make a choice to be this great. If I half-assed everything, there wouldn't be a whole lot of people that I think that would, try and do that work for me. I think it's a big part of it is, and I know it's not just, unique to me as a distance runner, you have to be pretty self-motivated, but there's obviously different levels of that. Like I said, like if both your parents were gold medalists, it's a little bit different than someone who just, it's all about love for the sport at the end of the day, winning, losing. And I think it's unique to me is like, I could never race a day in my life again, but I'd still train just as hard because I love it that much, like running's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Honestly, I met a lot of people, but I always thought Garrett, out of everybody I know Garrett loves running, but you guys are neck and neck. Yeah.
No, I see that in Garrett for sure.
By the way, I think we potentially just got how Joe Rogan has a Joe Rogan by day, podcast by day, podcast by night. I think we got that just now when Marlon just said that. Running is fucking awesome. I think we got to put that at the beginning of our podcast now.
You already got the logo for us, so now we're perfect.
I love that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So, other than that, well, let's just talk about goals for your senior year.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that.
Especially since you didn't get to run track.
Yeah. So,
I don't know, man.
Actually, real quick. What's your training looking like now? I'm interested because you don't have Strava, and I wanted to know.
Yeah, no, I don't publish my stuff, man. I've never been the one like post like my long run on my Instagram story. Not calling anyone out, but that's not
wow, you're just calling me straight out. Can't let no mid-distance runner have their fun, man.
Right now, I ran like 4 workouts total, and like I would never tell you what my workouts are like 4 months from now, but just because I'm like in doo-doo shape. So I ran like 1,000s the other day, and I averaged like 318 for the first 4, and then I ran like 308 on the last one, and I'm running about 30 miles a week right now. I was gonna just like, because I can only increase by 10% a week, coming off that injury, and that's something I've never limited myself to, but I knew I had to do it the right way. But I'm running 6 days a week. It's so simple. Now I've had to race, and so I don't want to beat myself to the ground, so I'm only doing like 1 workout a week because that's literally all I can handle. I pushed it so hard. Coming back and like actually being in practice for the first time was like these last 2 weeks, and I did a work in a week cycle. I did a workout Saturday, a workout Tuesday, and then I raced Saturday, and I made the choice not to work out Thursday that week too, just because like I couldn't even walk Sunday. So I have 8 more days of of this, and then like I said, I'll shut down just for a little bit to reset, and then do it the right way and keep things secret.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'm glad you know your limit, because boy, I tell you, I don't know how close I was to injuring my senior year, but I was going through some pains in my legs, and I thought at one point I had a stress fracture in the middle of my season, and I kind of had to take a step back and be like, is it really worth it? You know, I'm going to college in 4 months from now. Like, should I really, push it over that limit? Because it's one thing to be hardworking, but it's another thing to work hard but work stupid.
Yeah, for sure. Train smart and hard.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
So
my goals for track season, I know we were touching on before. That's a good question. I haven't really thought a whole lot about it just because I've been trying to get through everything that's happened and get to the point where I can actually train for those. But I don't know. Whenever I make goals, I don't usually say like, I know guys will be like, yeah, I want to run like 9:20, like right on the dot. I always like say something just because I don't want to like get to that and then stop,
of course.
I know, I guess I'm not really throwing out any numbers or goals or anything. Like I just don't want to. I don't want
to. They don't need to be measurable. They can just be,
Yeah, I mean it's pretty general. Like I want to be the best that's out there, and if I have to lose a couple guys, that's the way it is. But I want to know that I did every single thing I can to be at the top. So that's all. I mean, I just want to lay it all out there, and if that means winning state as a team during track by the biggest margin seen in years, then that's one thing. If it means being one of the top guys in the nation, that's another thing. But I want to be happy, whatever my last race was, I want to cross the finish line with a smile and be happy about what I did over high school and look forward to what's next, I mean, that's what I told myself for junior cross was no matter what happens, like I'm satisfied if I look back on my season, I'm happy with my season. What else, what I need to do? I'm not going to crunch numbers and focus on the time goal. If I'm happy with my season, that probably means I did it right. So that's all I gotta say about that, I guess.
Yeah, and that's I mean, when you start to focus too hard on the times and stuff, you don't really factor in a lot of things, and you kind of get down on yourself, and it's just not a good way to think and set goals. And I learned that personally because I had an insane amount of time goals coming into my my freshman year of college, and I don't even think I hit one of them. So,
yeah. I mean, you definitely had your reasons. I mean, that was not easy on you.
Yeah, but
I think that's why runners suffer burnout and get depressed is because when they're so like I want to run this exact time and they don't do it, it's like I don't even know why I'm running.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask you, since you got injured, do you cross train?
So yes and no. So because I was injured and for so much of my injury, I was actually running on the injury. No, but I'd say the last time, and you guys will think this is pretty funny. So when I had like that major back injury last winter, I still thought I would have a junior track season because no one predicted a global pandemic, for God's sake. But I was swimming like fucking Michael Phelps every week. And like I would go in and do doubles, and I'd say like the most nuts workout I ever did in the pool was because like for a while I couldn't even use my legs to swim because I had to like isolate my back, and so I had like the what do they call it, like the foam you put between your legs, like just swim with your arms.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
I did an hour straight of laps with just my arms, just like stay like kind of in shape, I guess. I know it's ridiculous, but I'd say swimming is my go-to. And then I'd bike as well, but biking, I have a nice road bike, but road biking around here is kind of frustrating. And then, on a stationary bike, it just gets like awful.
Boring.
So,
yeah. So swimming for me is like great because it's, it works everything. And it's also kind of like the most volume efficient, if that makes sense. Like 20 minutes of swimming, you can be like beat to shit after 20 minutes of swimming if you do it right. Like if you do a workout, like the intensity you can reach swimming is unmatched because you can't breathe, That's the difference.
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that because although you may not be aerobically in the best shape right now, like there's this one girl, I remember my junior year, and she cross-trained literally the whole season, barely ran, and she ran like a 2 flat in the 800.
Yeah, no, that's nuts. I think a big part of that is like going these workouts, like never in my life have I ever been just like jump into workouts. And like, I'll give you an example. I ran like a 3-mile tempo, like 5:40, it was like, all right, like I would never want to run that slow again in a tempo this year. But
Yeah.
I was happy with it. Like, that's all right for not having an aerobic pace. But then, we had 2 400s after, and I ran like 64 and 66, which I'd never been able to run. And like, that's like a joke to like milers and stuff. Like for me, like I've never been able to run a 64, even like barely at the end of a training block. I mean, I'm a true distance guy, but still I've never been able to just jump in and have that type like, speed. And I think it's just from going through the motions for you, like how many seasons since freshman year, like eventually I think there's, an extent of muscle memory, like it just never goes away. So, I mean, just because your lungs can't keep up doesn't mean like your legs can't if you've been through it before. So
True. And I mean, I hate to keep relating back to me, but I went through the same thing this year, and
yeah, no,
it's it's just goes to show you that every runner goes through the same thing. Like at one point or another, I came in terrible shape, and I mean, I'm in the best shape of my life, I think, right now.
I mean, for you to run, what'd you run for 8K the other day? I can't remember what off the top of my head.
I mean, it was a 26:37, but it was a lot faster on a lot worse of a course. And
so like even 26:37, like that's like faster than your high school race pace for 5K, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So even if it was 26:37 on a fast course, like
and last year I ran 26:55 on at Louisville, which is like one of the best courses you can run on.
And like just being honest, like you're meant to race on the track, so that's really impressive.
True, and this is also my second 8K ever, so
yeah.
So but mentally, why, like, what goes through your head mentally during races? Like, why do you fight like hard battles like how you feel physically, or do you think like mentally, like the battles are more inside your head?
I'd say like, man, and I miss it so much. Like when you're in peak shape, like there's nothing better than racing when you're in peak shape. Like when you can give it like flat out everything, but you finish and like you don't even have to bend over and catch your breath, just because like you train your body for that for months on end. But like you were saying, like sometimes it's the mental battles. Like you can be in a little bit of pain, but inside your head, like fighting that can be a bitch, And I'd say for me, like I'm just thinking about that last time I raced Cohen is like, I mean, for me, like I only have to ask myself one question. It's like, how bad do you want it? And then like I just leave it up to me, like I don't want to lose to myself. So at that point, it's just like I'm only proving to myself. Like if I ask myself that question, there's no going back. Like how bad do you want it? You don't want to say not that bad inside your head to yourself. That's the way I see it, at least. I don't know if that's weird, but
no, it's not. And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you're like obviously you're racing other people, but you're also kind of challenging yourself and competing against yourself just to see how much you can truly go through in a race,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I feel like it's so different, especially like in a 5K. Like even if like the truest of true distance guys, like running a 5K is a bitch compared to running a mile on the track. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Like the gutsiest races ever, 5K is going to be harder on a cross country course than a mile mentally every single time. Maybe not physically, but the battle you're going to fight inside your head, and for me, like it's odd because for cross country, like the hardest mile for me has always been, mile 1 going through mile 2. And then for some reason, like that last mile, I feel like, the training starts to kick in and the adrenaline starts to flow. And so it's like kind of numb, but running that second mile on a 5K, and I'm sure like it'll be the same way in college for double the distance. It's like horrible, because that's just like you're like in between the start and the finish.
So speaking about college now, and as we start to wrap this podcast up, what exactly, like, what do you think, what are your plans in college? Where do you think you'll succeed more? You think you'll stay at around like 3K, 5K, or do you think you'll move up to the notorious 10K?
I feel like, I don't know. I'm going to see how this last track season goes before I say anything concrete. So hopefully I'm not quoted on what I'm about to say, but, based off of how I've been running, I've always kind of excelled at longer distances. Cross country has kind of always been my thing over track. Thankfully in college, if that is true, then I'll be able to race 5K and 10K on the track. But if I had to guess, I mean, I'm sure Coach might run me in a mile a few times that my freshman year. But if I had to guess, based off what my workouts will show pretty early on, I think, cross country is always going to be my love. And then on the track, I think I'll be a 5K guy, just being honest with you. I think I could run a pretty gnarly 3K, but, I think 5K, 10K would kind of always be my thing.
I hate you so much for saying that, by the way. I hate cross country.
But if I'm at nationals and you're in the mile or the 3K, you bet your ass I'm going to be racing the mile and the 3K.
Of course. So Ryan, you have anything else to ask before we?
Yeah, I got a coaching question just because I don't have a kid as good as you, but kind of similar build. You said that the fastest 400 runs just like a 64.
That's like, I'm saying like in a workout, but no, I mean, I like people tell me like, I'm sure you have like 55, 56 speed. I'm like, all right, I've never ran it. The fastest 400 I've ever ran is going out in an 800 sophomore year, and it was a 59. So
okay,
got out there. Like,
so yeah,
I consider myself like great finishing speed, but I'd never run that fast in workouts ever. So I'm sure that'll change this last season. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, because I'm just. So is that something you're trying to work on your senior year, or is that something you're just like, I don't have that type of speed. I'd rather just focus on distance.
I mean, I'm always going to put like volume over everything. I think that, if you are training upwards of 70 miles a week, there's only so much, fast intervals you can do without kind of destroying your legs midweek. But for me, I've say like that aerobic base is always going to, and I have people like in the running community will debate over this, like, 800 runners that have ran like crazy volume and no speed and still run just as fast as someone that does the complete opposite. So for me, I think having, a stronger aerobic foundation than whoever my opponent is, can give me personally the finishing speed I already need if I'm like doing my strides and finishing some workouts with 400s. But will I kind of do some workouts with the sprinters? Maybe like one or two. But what I've been doing works. And if I do want to run a faster mile, I'm going to hammer out some harder 400s than I would for a 5K for sure. But no, I wouldn't say that I'm going to be doing, like 3x400 all out much, stuff like that.
So because I kind of do the same thing with one of my runners, just pretty much aerobic work and then just add some strides just to.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like I know as a high school coach, you kind of have to generalize. And I think 9 times out of 10 or 9 runners out of 10, like that's going to work for them. If you have that aerobic base and you get the legs turning a little bit, like that speed's going to come by itself. Mm-hmm. And if you want to perfect it, like, yeah, you're going to have to hammer out some workouts maybe, but.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, Garrett, I'm good. That was my nerdy question I had to ask him for me.
I was gonna add on to that. I feel like you don't necessarily need. Obviously, I think as long as you take care of strides and doing a little bit of faster leg turnover, I think as long as you have that, you should still have a decent speed at least for the mile and up.
Yeah.
Maybe not for the 800, but.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, yeah, I'll run the 800. Like my school record's a 157. I think I could run like 155, 156 off of just like no speed, like just like basic thing I'd be doing for like
but then you got some speed on you.
I'm saying
you're running 155.
I've heard of guys like running like 149 their sophomore year. Like that's not crazy speed. Like like fun. I'll be really happy with 156 for a distance guy because my school record is 57. Like I'll run the 4x8. Like I'm really like for like shorter distances. Like I'm gonna focus on the mile obviously, but I'm not going to go balls to the wall to run the best 800. Like, I'm not going to go balls to the wall to run like 154 instead of 155, which like I don't even know if I could do, but we'll see.
You scared? You want to race me? You scared?
I mean, I'll race you. It's up to that. I doubt I can catch you in a college 800, but I'm up for a challenge. So.
Hey, we'll see. But all right, guys, we're going to wrap this podcast up. We're gonna, we like to do our all-out kick round every podcast and just ask some rapid fire questions. You don't necessarily have to answer it as fast as possible, but just some general questions.
I kind of cut like half of them out, so I didn't really finish. But before we finish that, I want to thank Marlon for the Distance Theory logo. That shit's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I did my best. I'm not an expert in Photoshop, but
because the logo we had before was pretty bad. It was just a picture of a track and just our names, so we appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Ryan spelled my name wrong like 8 different times.
I spelled your name wrong on the first.
I didn't know you had 2 T's at the end of Garrett. Shit, that was only 1.
It's okay, bro.
Me too, man. I got the last name right though.
Yeah. So obviously cross country is your favorite, but what's your favorite track event to run?
Yeah, honestly, I'd probably say like the mile's the most fun, but the 2 miles like my favorite.
Okay, so what's your favorite track event to watch?
So to watch, I'd say definitely the 800 or the 4x1.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go with the 4x4.
I mean, I think like in high school, yeah, the 4x4, but in the Olympics, like I think the 4x1 with like Jamaica, USA, great. Like that's the most exciting thing you can watch is an Olympic relay for like sprinters at least. But high school, definitely 4x4 at the end of the day. Like that's always gonna be the most hype race.
Hardest workout ever.
Hardest workout. I know I'm supposed to answer these as fast as I can.
Oh, you're good.
Nah, you're good.
I'm gonna have to think about that one. Probably, I'd say like anything with like 1K repeats at race pace is gonna be pretty damn hard.
With like
at race pace?
Like if you do, or goal pace at least, like kind of in that range with like 1 minute standing rest, like those are gonna be tough.
So like what average pace would that be, like 240s?
No, not 240.
No, Garrett.
Maybe.
I don't know.
What, 302?
Race pace, so I mean.
Yeah,
For 5K, right? For a 5K.
Yeah. Like if I were like, I'm like I can do race pace with like a minute standing rest for like 6 of them back to back to back. Like if I were like slightly like below that, kind of like at threshold with a minute standing rest, like I'd say those are bitch to run.
Okay, you scared me there for a second. I actually meant like in it, because when you say race pace, I'm thinking, dang, you're doing that at mile race pace?
No, not never mile race pace.
Okay, okay.
I'd say I'll be damned if I can run 6 by 1K at my mile race pace.
Yeah. And then I guess this is the final one. No, not the final one, but second to last question. What's your favorite pair of running shoes?
Oh man, I feel like this should be an easy one. I'd say because I like that like certain pairs of shoes for certain things. I'd say I'll just go by like each category. So my favorite flat ever is an Ultra Vanish, and then my favorite like everyday trainer is probably the Kinvara, and then my favorite like long run shoe ever is probably the first Pegasus Turbo.
I was gonna say, dang, no Nike.
Yeah, no Nike. I'm gonna have to be running Nikes. So no, I love the Pegasus lineup.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the last few. I'm not really a big fan of the 37s, but
for junior cross though, I trained in 2 pairs of Skechers. I had the Razor 3s and the Max Roads, which were great. Like I love those to death. I just haven't ran them for like forever. I can honestly, that might be my favorite shoes. Those 2 Skechers I ran were awesome.
And so last question, what's the proudest moment of your running career?
Oh man. I'd say probably I don't know if I could pick just one. I mean, like I feel like every race is like the proudest moment, but probably not sound like cheesy, but like probably, I mean, I'd say probably the 15:10 was something I was pretty proud of. Yeah. Because like it didn't really like set in at first, but I was like, damn, like that's a big boy time. For the first time ever, I told myself that. Like I was like satisfied with something I ran fully. Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be like a running, because I mean it could even be you committing to Georgetown and your hard work finally, paying off.
Oh, okay. You meant like in general, like to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely like, that's always been like the dream. And that's definitely like, probably one, like besides like running for running itself, it getting me to where I want to be in terms of like, my dream D1 school, that was definitely huge. And I talked like all my friends' ears off about it since freshman year. So I'm sure they're all pretty happy about it too.
Of course, bro. I was extremely happy for you. I'll just tell you that much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm so excited to like be in the NCAA with like all you guys now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. And honestly, we probably will race each other at a couple of AKs.
Yeah. I mean, especially like as you guys like form like this baller squad.
Yeah. But all right. I mean, if you guys don't have anything else to add on, anything you want to shout out, like your Instagram, anything?
YouTube channel.
Nah, nothing.
Nothing, man. I'm good.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you, Marlon, for coming on the podcast with us.
Yeah,
obviously, I mean, I think this is a great episode.
That was so awesome. I'm so happy to be here.
Sound like freaking Kevin Durant in his MVP.
It's so fun. I love that last part. I was like, those rapid fire questions, like that's cool.
Yeah. But all right, guys, we're gonna wrap up this episode of the Distance Theory podcast. I'm Garrett Carter with my co-host Ryan Mazzozo and Marlon Belden, and signing out.